guys, so a few things have happened. I dyed my hair red. Anyone who's dyed their hair, they might relate to this. Whenever I drastically change my hair colour, I find none of my clothes go anymore. They all look weird because they don't go with my hair. That hasn't happened. I've found the clothing front quite easy to tackle, but the most frightening experience I've got so far with the red hair is that my forehead looks very, very large. Hence the hat. I mean, it is autumn, so I can get away with it, so we'll move on. I got a diagnosis from the doctor, the psychiatrist. I don't know what he was, but he was a man who knew what he was doing. I've drank a lot of coffee, again. Not just today, but generally my whole life. I've probably drank more coffee than perhaps the average human is supposed to. What else? I had my first panic attack. I understand when I've had other people talk about what panic attack is like, they're like, you cannot understand it until you've had one, and I couldn't understand what a panic attack was like. I couldn't even imagine. But when I had it, I was like, oh damn, is this a panic attack? And I was like, fuck, this is definitely panic attack because I can't fucking breathe and I'm panicking, my body is under attack. But anyway, my biggest thing I need to talk to you about right now is that my cat thinks I'm being mean, and that breaks my heart. He doesn't like his cat biscuits. He wants wet food, so he's got a massive strop on because apparently he's very hungry. So I thought, okay, if you're hungry, he's been running around the house like meowing at me, and then he tries to run to his food bowl and turn back and look at you as if to say, come on. So I thought, all right, I'll do as I'm told. I followed him to his food bowl, put the cat biscuits in there. I looked for wet food, we didn't have any, so it had to be cat biscuits. I'm sorry mate, but if you're that hungry, you can eat them. I put them in his bowl, and he looks at me like this. The look in his eye said,
you better watch yourself when you sleep. You better lock all the doors and windows, because I'll be coming for you. I'll be coming for you. You better hope that your mum and dad shut me outside, because I'll be coming your way.
And I came in my bedroom to film, and he ran off. And I'm like, we're usually best mates. What is your issue right now? Should I go and get him? I'll get him. We'll ask him on camera if he's got a problem with me. Let's do it. Do you love me? Rupert, we got a lot of talking. We're not on talking terms. We are really not. He might set up camp on the bed. Nobody say a word. Let's just see what he decides to do. Rupert! That's alright. You do the silent treatment, my darling. You do the silent treatment. You see where that gets you. Anyway, let's move on. Let's forget about him. What's wrong with me? Well, let's get on to that, shall we? So I had my hospital appointment for my mental health, and I went with my stepmom and my girlfriend Ellie, and I was very nervous, which is surprising for me because I've had to do a lot of these meetings / talk things. I've spoken to people at the hospital before, but this was one of the big dogs. Usually I'm like, okay, cool, like I can tell people how I think, I can tell them what upsets me, I can tell them what makes me angry. But with him, I was like, oh gosh, he's the man who, if anyone can help me, he can. So I need to make sure I can give him as much information and be as real with him as I can, so that we can get somewhere with this, so I can try and find the right medication or the right treatment to help my brain out, because it needs a bit of help. Nothing wrong with that. I realised I couldn't go into the appointment and do the cover-up thing that I usually do, where I'm like, hi, yeah, I'm okay, I'm crazy, but it's fine. I had to be a bit more real. Let me just get the coffee. They probably would suggest that I'd stop drinking coffee, but that's not gonna happen. So I'm sat in the waiting room. I got one of my gals here, one of my gals here. They were like, do you want to go in on your own, or do you want us to come in? Do you want us to come in for a little bit? And I thought, oh God, I don't know what to do, because I was already kind of on shutdown mode. If I can't use my coping mechanism of nervously laughing and, sorry, being a little bit crazy, then I'm on shutdown mode. My body's on lockdown. I'm not going to be able to speak to this man because I'm going to be too nervous. So in the end, my stepmom came in with me, and Ellie waited for me outside, and we sat down with this man. My worst thing when I go in and see someone to help me with my mental health is when they say, so how are you? What can we do for you? Because I think, you bloody know why I'm here. It's because I'm really struggling and I really need your help. Please just start the conversation for me, or please ask me a different question. Don't ask me if I'm okay, because I'm really not. But he didn't do that. Luckily, he just kind of, I can't remember how it got started, but basically Susie, my stepmom, was explaining how my mood is and how things are at home. When I feel more comfortable, I could really do like a nitty-gritty video about how my brain works, kind of more serious when I'm not being all like crazy, because it is very serious what we spoke about. But I don't feel comfortable giving details just because I just don't, okay? Cut a long story short, after explaining to him how I feel, how my childhood was, how my relationships with certain people are, how I am now as an adult, and how I channel my anger, he basically said that I was a pressure cooker without the pressure valve. So basically, I was just this big thing building up loads of pressure, but there was nothing that was letting me relieve stress because I just internalize everything. And that in turn makes me sometimes a very angry person. Not like as in like shouting at people or physically violent, but inside I'm like, I'm gonna snap at any moment and you better get running because I'm gonna be crazy. Before I'd gone to see him, this lady had called me up and done almost like a bipolar type quiz with me, and he said I'd scored very high on the bipolar scale. But he also mentioned something called EPD, which is emotional personality disorder. And he said when people score on the bipolar scale, 9 times out of 10 they score on the EPD scale, and I had scored on both. The difference between the two is that bipolar is highs and lows, but there is an element in the middle where you seem to be a bit more normal, managing a bit more level, a bit more like your true self. Whereas EPD is highs and lows that are constant. It can switch within a couple hours during the day. There's no in between. Bipolar is something, please don't quote me on anything, but bipolar is something you're born with that can be caused to come out worse in you if you've experienced trauma. Like trauma can trigger it to get worse. Something that if it's left untreated can get progressively worse and worse, because there's different levels and types of bipolar. Whereas EPD, you're not born with it, it's childhood trauma created. So as I've said in other videos, my childhood was very difficult. My adolescent years, like my pre-teens and early teens, was very difficult for me and has caused a lot of problems for me as an adult. Like emotionally, how I've developed is not okay. I don't know, just things were fucked, so it fucked me up later, basically. Just to put it bluntly, I'm sorry for the language, but yeah. So at the end of the meeting, he said, okay, we're gonna treat you for bipolar, we're gonna give you a working diagnosis of bipolar. He said, I can't give you a definite answer that you've got bipolar, because before people are like 100% diagnosed, they need to have a trial on medication to see if the medication for bipolar helps them. He said, in which case you will have bipolar, basically, cut a long story short. And then once my mood has leveled out with the bipolar medication, I can start a therapy treatment for the EPD. So bipolar is medicated, EPD is 9 times out of 10 therapy based. So he gave me and my stepmom a list of like 5 different bipolar medications, and all had different side effects. One of them causes long-term liver problems. Another one during pregnancy can cause your child to have, it was either a cleft palate or a cleft lip, I can't remember. So he said if you're thinking about getting pregnant, don't take that one. He said if you do get pregnant and you're taking this certain medication, we'll just swap it over and give you another one. But me and my stepmom were like, she's a lesbian, so she's not gonna get pregnant anytime soon, so, you know. And another medication he mentioned caused weight gain. They all can possibly cause weight gain, but this one had a higher kind of scoring on the amount of weight gain it causes, and we were like, no, that's not going to be good for me because of my eating disorder and the fact that I'm in recovery from that. If I rapidly started gaining weight, I would just stop eating, and you know, with bipolar, there's so many things you have to do to take care of yourself, and eating good meals is one of them. So we decided to go on a medication called lamotrigine. And this one is mainly used to treat the lows of bipolar, which is something I struggle with more rather than the highs. So medication wise, I have started the lamotrigine already. I'm still on my antidepressant mirtazapine, which I've mentioned before. I'm on them both at the same time because he didn't want to just take away the mirtazapine and put me straight on the lamotrigine, because if I reacted badly, like my body reacted badly, then he wouldn't know if it was because of the new medication or the fact he'd taken my mirtazapine away. When I went to pick the lamotrigine up from the pharmacy, it had some instructions on the box, and it says to take one every day for 2 weeks and then increase to one twice a day for 2 weeks, and then I'll increase to 50 milligrams twice a day. So in 4 weeks I'll be up to 100 milligrams, and he did say that he'd like to put me up to 200 milligrams, but I've got a review appointment just before that to see how the medication is helping me. So that's the medication I take every day. Not all of them, obviously, just one each. I take them at bedtime because they do make me tired, so I'd rather kind of sleep off the side effects for 8 hours instead of as if I've taken them at the beginning of the day, then I'd be asleep at work, and I don't think I could get away with that. Has the medication had any effect on me so far? I don't know. Personally, I still think it could possibly be too early for them to have an effect on me, but saying that, I do feel like when I do have my lows, they aren't as scary and frightening as they usually are. Because I'm not like crazy depressed and have no emotional feeling, I have realised that I can feel my anxiety a lot more now. So it's almost like maybe it works in levels. It targets one thing, then as I get stronger it can target more and more. So I'm hoping that my anxiety won't get worse or stay. Something I do struggle with alongside potentially bipolar now is paranoia and a little bit of psychosis, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but that's the kind of thing that I didn't really want to talk about. Just before we end, the panic attack thing, it happened 3 days after my appointment with him, and I think basically just the stress from certain relationships I have with certain people, the stress from the meeting with him, the stress and kind of the overwhelming feeling of the fact that okay, the reality has hit that I have bipolar, all of that built up, and it just kind of happened out of nowhere. I couldn't breathe, I was crying, and I just couldn't catch my breath. My whole body was shaking, and I almost felt a little bit delirious. Like at points I would start laughing during it and then start crying, and I'd be like just honestly having a freaking meltdown. I was shaking, it was horrendous. Like I almost don't even remember what happened, and I think it lasted for nearly an hour and a half. Luckily I was with Ellie. The only thing I really remember her doing was sat in front of me, like holding me, being like, it's okay, and she was like, follow my breathing, listen to me breathing, try and breathe with me, like, and she just was doing her best to make sure I was okay, and she did a very good job, because I would not have known what to do. If it was the other way around, I don't know, I probably would have cried. So she was really good. I'm happy for the progress that was made. I'm happy for the working diagnosis. I'm happy for just trying to get things in motion to help my brain feel better, because nobody wants to be at war with their brain. It's possibly one of the worst things you could be at war with. But anyway, on that note, you're worth all the happiness in the world, as always. Do whatever you can do to help yourself. Go get whatever help you can get. Grab opportunities with both hands. There's no shame in getting help. There's no shame in taking medication if that's what you want to do. There's no shame in having therapy. You need to do what is best for you at the end of the day. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.